Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this very special Insights and Innovation series today, where our wonderful partners at Bishop have got a very special guest, which is a very, very different and also, I believe, one of the probably most powerful sessions we're going to have this year. The amazing Alison Powell, who is a good friend of Indies and IMAA. I will hand over to you to take things over.
Thank you, Sam. That was a nice wrap. Good morning, good afternoon, depending which timeline you're sitting on. I'm Alison Powell, the head of the agency sales team here at Bishop Outdoor. Welcome to our Sales Masterclass. We all need selling skills. It's critical for the success and growth of any business. We identified that this could be a really interesting topic to discuss today, and I'm really pleased to introduce to everyone on the call to Ryan Tuckwood. The sales team at Bishop are now in our second year of working with you now, Ryan, and your team at SWISH Sales. We found your lessons to be invaluable. So we've identified two subjects we believe could be really beneficial for you all to focus on in your day-to-day interactions with clients and partners. So I'll hand over to Ryan.
Thank you so much, Alison. I appreciate it. And Sam and everybody else that made today happen. Really, really excited to be here. Sounds like you guys have got a lot going on. And what that usually means is you will be super, super busy. So I want to keep this as effective and efficient as possible. For those that don't know me, as Alison just said, my name is Ryan Tuckwood, and I'm the proud founder of SWISH Sales Coaching. We are 10 years old in about 10 days' time. And for the last decade, I've been doing just this, working with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals all around the world to help them grow their business with authenticity using something that we call SWISH. SWISH stands for Selling with Integrity and Selling Honestly. So if there was any nerves or apprehension around a Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street type session today, that is not going to happen. This is about creating better human interactions during your conversations with clients, colleagues, and even loved ones alike. So, guys, what I want to do, I'd like this to be interactive. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not somebody that likes to stand behind a screen and just talk at you. I'd like to talk with you. So, if possible, we've only got 30 to 45 minutes today. So if possible, I'd like to get you guys involved, because the more involved you are, the better I'm going to be able to tailor this session for you. And I'm going to make it nice and easy for you. The only thing I'm going to ask you for initially in the chat, just pop it in the chat for me, is one word. And the word is to describe how you're feeling right now. How are you feeling right now? And you can say whatever you want. I'm an English sales trainer based on the Gold Coast. I am uninsultable. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm dressed like this. Alison knows that I wear some out there attire. So Callum is good. Callum is good. Brett is busy, productive, hopefully. Brett as well. Busy. Alison's hungry. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So lots going on. This is never going to change. I mean, we're often waiting. Beck's ready to go. We're obviously often waiting for that kind of break and that window where we can just relax. And what I've realized after a decade in business, it doesn't really happen, unfortunately. But what we can do is maximize the time that we have. Sally is calm. That's nice. I like that. So, guys, if you can, as Beck just did, put your cameras on. If the cameras do work, I'd love to see you. And what I'm going to do is share with you my really, really short and quick agenda. So hopefully this is changing nicely for you. High level. I'm going to talk about 3 principles of selling to a modern day consumer. I think from my knowledge and the conversations that I've had, a lot of you are very experienced. You would have seen changes over the last few years of the way people that are buying are consuming, and that happens frequently. We go through different cycles, but in essence, human beings are very, very predictable. So we've got to make sure that we're working with human behavior, not against it. So I'll talk about 3 principles. Then I'm going to talk about mastering your pitch. Now, I'm sure you've heard this till the cows come home. We were very fortunate in 2018. We took this business onto the TV show Shark Tank, and we became the first company in the history of Australian Shark Tank to secure 3 investors in Steve Baxter, Andrew Banks, and Dr. Glenn Richards. They're still with us to this day. They're speaking at our 10th anniversary sales conference next week, and they've been fantastic for us. And what we had to do was we had 90 seconds to be able to pitch our idea and our business to them, and then they can come back and fire questions. That is when we're in the Shark Tank itself. We're actually in there for about 2.5 hours after that 90 seconds. So I've got a 5-step process that I'm going to walk you through to make sure that every single interaction you have is maximized because you are articulating your value. And of course, we'll finish off with a few quick takeaways. Now, guys, just with a quick yes or no in the chat, and again, I won't be insulted. Who's done any of our training before? Who's seen me before? Yes or no? Just so I know how deep or how much to share with you. Just a yes or a no. It's fine if you haven't. Okay, all right. So nobody initially instinctively, and I appreciate the engagement there, guys. Thank you. All right. So just for a little bit of context, then I'll do this really, really quickly. As I alluded to, I am English. I moved over here in 2010. I was a mechanical maintenance engineer for 8 years back in the UK before I went through my quarter-life crisis. I moved here at the age of 27. I didn't want to be in sales. I fell into cold calling. I don't know if any of you have done that before. I've done 330,000 cold calls in my time. I've been punched in the face metaphorically more than I could have ever imagined if I wanted to. I got to the stage where I was absolutely rock bottom. Alison knows this story. She could probably tell this story for me. I was 21st out of 21 salespeople for the first 3 months straight. And what I realized was I wasn't very good at sales. And I didn't want to be in sales. At 5 years old, my parents took me to the doctors because I had weird social anxiety issues. I didn't like school. I didn't like parties. I didn't like going out for dinner. Apparently, I'd sit under the table and take my shoes off as a kid. Wouldn't talk to anybody. And mum and dad really were worried about me. So why do I share that? I was a classic introvert. And I know you're not seeing that version of me right now. That's because I've invested a lot of money and I've done a lot of training to have a level of confidence in front of the camera and on stage in front of thousands of people. How did I get there? I applied all of the engineering principles that I've learned to sales. And what I realized along the way was that sales and communication, ultimately running a business, is a process. There is an order of which we have to do things that can maximize the value that somebody else sees in us. And that includes our words, that includes our tone, our nonverbals, our body language. And what happened from there was I fell in love with sales. I went from 21st to 1st in 5 weeks after my old boss actually set me a bit of a challenge, but I needed data to back it up. So I actually went down a rabbit hole roughly about 2016, 2017 into emotional intelligence, behavioral science, neurolinguistic programming, some of you might have heard of as well. And I realized that humans, as I mentioned earlier on, we are quite predictable in a way. And a lot of us inadvertently are working against human behavior. You're not doing it on purpose, but we're doing it by accident, usually by the way we've been trained or because we're trying to not be seen as a salesperson. And ironically, the more we try to not be seen as a salesperson, the more salesy we actually become. So what that led to was obviously going on to Shark Tank, as I quickly alluded to. And over the last decade, we've now coached all 158 sectors across 32 different countries on 6 continents. So there isn't an industry or sector that we haven't touched. We are Queensland government approved trainers as well. So we work with teachers, hospitality staff, fireys, police. We work with psychologists and therapists, and of course, a lot of general business owners as well. So this is about human interaction, not just about transactions. Most importantly, I believe I'm a dad to 2 amazing boys. They're nearly 6 and nearly 4. That is when I realized that sales is something that we can either nurture or we knock out of people. My kids, they're the best negotiators, and I'm encouraging them to learn how to negotiate. And if you've got kids, you know exactly what I mean. But what we often do is we inadvertently knock it out of them. So by the time we get to adulthood, we've been told to don't talk to strangers, don't ask for too much, and we don't know how to negotiate. We don't know how to communicate. So I want to give you some of those fundamental skills today. Guys, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds into what you guys do because you will wipe the floor with me. The reality is this. We've coached every industry and sector, but I've never sold a car and I train Mercedes-Benz. I've never sold finance and we train Amex. I've never been a teacher, but we train teachers. I've never sold what you guys sell. So what I'm going to do is stay high level. And I'm going to talk about human behavior and things that we know categorically work. And that's really where I want to start today. So if you do have a notepad and pen, I will encourage you to write things down. It was Napoleon that said to us, what we hear, we forget. What we write down, we might remember, but only what we implement will we truly understand. And if there's one thing that I want you taking away from this lightning session, I'm used to speaking on stage for 10 hours. So this is a lightning session. It would be this. It is all behaviors are state dependent. All behaviors are state dependent. I don't mean Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. And WA, I shouldn't have started that, should I? I'm not going to mention all states. They are all state dependent. So previous experience will dictate future behaviors. And rightly or wrongly, things that happened to us in our past, our conditioning will dictate the way we respond and act to things right now. Some of you were told that you've got a sales coach coming on here today, and he lives on the Gold Coast and he's English. And some of you might have even Googled me and had a look on and done some professional stalking. And you would have come in here with a premeditated idea around what this session might be like. So that means that your state, rightly or wrongly, might not be right to absorb information. So it works both ways. So from a learning perspective, we need to be in the right state. And from a sales perspective, we need to get people into what we call buying state. So everything I share with you here on in is designed to get people into a buying state, not just to make a sale, but to give yourself a chance of maximizing that interaction. So guys, the next three things I want to share with you. The first one, I want to play a little game with you. And I want you to walk away with something really tangible throughout this session. So you can go and use it this afternoon. What I will say before I go into it is this, and I'll get you to write it down for me, please. It's that different is different and different is okay. Different is different, but different is okay. And you're going to know why I say that in a second. Alison probably knows why already. Right, different is different and different is okay. We are all different. We need to be, and it takes multiple different personalities to grow, scale, and succeed in business and indeed life. So the first thing I want to, first principle I want to talk about, and I'm going to get you to fill in the blank for me, is something that we've been told for many, many years. And I want to make sure that we're on the right page here with this. So we're working with human behavior, not against it. And it is this. Fill in the blank for me, guys. Type it in the chat. We are supposed to treat people how? Fill in the blank. Like to be treated. Lisa, treat people how you like to be treated. Victoria's gone they. Craig's gone you. Callum's gone you. Craig's gone you. Sam's gone you. Gemma's gone you. Sally's got, oh, there's controversy in here. This is interesting. I like this. Let's cause arguments and I'll just leave you. See you guys. Have a great week. All right. All right. This is the blank. Treat people how they would like to be treated. So I don't know Ben at this stage, but I'm not going to treat Ben how I like to be treated. What do I mean by that? Now, as a consumer, I am very conservative. I'm not an impulse buyer. Who knows? Is anybody an impulse buyer? Just give me a yes if you're. I'm not selling anything, by the way. But are you an impulse buyer? Becky, you impulsive? You just make a decision. Okay, I'm not, right? So I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to go. Let's use the billboards as an example because obviously we work closely with Bishop. It doesn't matter how good Alison is. Unfortunately, she's not going to get me over the line on one conversation, right? I trust her. I think she's amazing. I think the offering's great. They've been fantastic for us for a couple of years, but I'm not buying instantly. I'm going to sleep on it. I would like an email with bullet points on it. I would like to see some visuals. I'm probably going to speak to my next door neighbor that knows nothing about billboards as well. That's just the way I'm wired. So in that respect, what I inadvertently would do is treat Alison exactly the same because I want to treat people how I like to be treated, which I now realize is wrong. And that might not be the way that Alison buys things. I mean, Beck, if you say that you're impulsive and I was dragging the sale out in your eyes, maybe that would actually frustrate you. Let me ask you guys, anybody, if you can flick your microphone on if you want, or you can type it in the chat. I want you to ask me answer me this. What is one modern day consumer behavior? What do you think is a modern day consumer behavior? What is there something that people ask you all of the time? Is there something that people are doing that they didn't do 10, 15, 25 years ago? What has changed? Just so we can touch on this for a second. Anybody got any insights on that? What are you noticing? Modern day consumer behaviors, because it has changed. And I'll share with you one high level one in a second. Proof is critical. Yes, Lisa, I would agree with that. Multi-screening. Yes. So like getting different options. Yes, exactly right. I'd agree with that. Researching. I think Victoria, that's probably the top line with this is the helicopter is that we have an ability to get data in a second. Right? I can go, you guys can jump off here right after this session if you want. Some of you will, some of you couldn't care less. You go and Google me and you can validate or discredit everything that I've said in a second. We couldn't do that 25, 30 years ago. So what it means is that the consumer is more in control than ever before. Now, how many of you people come to you and they ask you for something and they go, I can get it cheaper over here, but they're not comparing apples with apples. So the research isn't always right, but the consumer feels that they are right. And one thing that we do know has increased over the last 15 years or so is asking for a discount, right? Who gets asked for a discount? Can you do that cheaper? Can you sharpen that up? Can you throw something else in there? All of those things, that is a consumer behavior. It's not a prerequisite to a sale. So when I talk about treating people how they like to be treated, we need to understand modern day consumer behaviors. If somebody asks me for a discount, if Beck said, Ryan, that sounds really good, but can you do that any cheaper? My response is this. I think we both know the answer to that. I'd be disappointed if you didn't ask. Have you got any other questions? It's not real. I'm not going to sit in the weeds and deal with something that is a consumer behavior, not a prerequisite to a sale. So why do I share that? We need to understand the 4 different personality types in consumer behavior. Now, I imagine a lot of you, especially with the experience that I believe that you have, you would have done personality profiling, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Wealth Dynamics of the like. Just give me a yes or a no if you know what I'm talking about. Who's done these types of things before? Some sort of personality profiling. Yes. You should have done in the industry that you're in. Okay. Well, I want to take this. I want to take personality profiling and reading people, and I want to make it really easy for you. I want to show you how you can read anybody, any situation in about 15 to 30 seconds. So if you're playing along, please draw an X and Y axis on your piece of paper for me. And I'm going to ask you 2 simple questions, and I'm going to be able to identify which personality type you are. And then at the end of that, what I'm going to be able to do is speak your language instead of my language. And the 2 questions are this. Firstly, do you believe, right at the top, do you believe you are more fast and direct in the way that you conduct yourself? Or are you more slow and reserved? And all I want you to do is circle which one of those you think you are most of the time. Are you fast and direct, or are you slow and reserved? Believe it or not, I am slow and reserved. So I would circle slow and reserved. The second question I'm going to ask you is, are you more people orientated, or are you task orientated? No right, no wrong. I am actually task orientated. Doesn't mean I don't like people. It just means that I'm more inclined when I walk into the office on a Monday morning to go, hey, Paul, did you get that proposal out on Friday that I asked you to do? Before I said, hey, Paul, how was your weekend? Right, that's my default. Becca, you on this side? Are you a task person as well? Yeah, I could tell. Come join this fun party. But are you up here? Are you fast? Yeah, okay, right. So I met Beck just before here. Pretty much easy to read because I asked myself 2 questions. Is she fast and is she task orientated? Is she task and is she fast orientated? First question Beck asked, Ryan, have you got any videos or tech? That is a task orientated question. She didn't ask me, how are you? That would be a people question. Doesn't mean she doesn't like me. That's just the way she's wired. So all of a sudden I've gone, right, I'm going to put Beck up here. So every time I talk to Beck, I know how to communicate with her. Does that make sense, guys? I'd ask you to show your hands, but I can't see your hands. All right. So the 2 questions when meeting another human for the very first time are really, really simple. Are they fast and direct or slow and reserved? Right? Are they above the line or below the line? And then ask yourself, when you first communicate with them, what is their default? Are they people or are they task orientated? My receptionist does it here. If I've got somebody coming in for an interview or a meeting, she will literally slack me the personality type of the person that I'm going out into the boardroom to meet. Right? Super handy for me to have, because somebody might walk in and they go, good morning, I've got a 10 o'clock with Ryan. Fast, 10 o'clock. So they're fast and they're task. They might say, good morning, how are you? Yeah, I've got a 10 o'clock with Ryan. Fast, people, because they said, how are you before they got to the 10 o'clock. Does that make sense, guys? So are you really tuned into that? Are you reading email? Are you sending an email to somebody saying, hey, Beck, hope you had a lovely weekend. Jeez, it was hot up here on the Gold Coast. Anyway, I sent you through it. And she's like, why are you telling me that? You can just say, did you sign the document? She doesn't care. Not sorry, Beck, you're just the only face there, so it makes it easy. And I know that these don't care. Doesn't matter what I think. They don't care. They're like, all right, cool, move on. At least you didn't show me a picture of your babies, Ryan. At least you just got bullet points out. Okay, so number 1, guys, is make sure you're speaking the language of them, not your language. Otherwise, what you will be doing is inadvertently selling how you like to buy. If any of you have heard of a company called Gong.io, Gong.io, which you might have done, bearing in mind the industry that you're in. They did a study in 2019 10,000 sales calls. This was in America. And they wanted to see what percentage of those sales calls inbound became a client. It was actually 28%. They took DISC, because they're big advocates of DISC as well, and they wanted to see, was there a prominent buying persona? So out of all 4 of these, so dominant, influencer, steady, or conscientious, that's DISC, dominant, influencer, steady, or conscientious, was there one of them that was more frequently buying than the others? So dominance, fast and direct, sometimes abrupt, very results orientated. Influencers, social, talkative, maybe don't have great attention to detail. Steadies, a little bit resistant to change, but they follow systems extremely well and they're very loyal. Conscientious, slow and reserved, maybe take a bit too much time to make decisions because they need all of the data. Which one of those 4 was the most prominent buyer? Guys, I'm going to ask you to pop that in the chat. Which one do you think it was? Fast, direct, social, steady, or maybe detail and process orientated? D, I, S, or C? What do you reckon? I know this is fast, guys, but hopefully valuable. C and D, C. This, Sam's gone S. Okay, all right, more conflict in here. Apparently the eyes never buy anything. They're too busy just having a yarn. So they're like, Sam, what's up? When did you say the Christmas party was? They forgot about their appointments. So this is the most profound lesson I've ever had in studying people. Forget sales, but studying people. The most prominent buyer out of that 28% was whichever one matched the salesperson. So if Beck was selling, her pipeline would be disproportionately full of her. You attract what you are. So for me, and when I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, all of my old clients were very process driven. They're data driven. They wanted bullet points in an email. They wanted specifications. And I couldn't close these ones up here that wanted all the fluffy stuff and the pictures and the videos. That's not the way that I'm wired. When I realized that, I'm like, okay, well, I'm missing out on 75% of the market because I haven't learned to speak their language. Does this make sense, guys? Okay, so, and it shouldn't take any longer than what you're doing right now. You just have to be really tuned in and switched on. All right, the second principle I want to share with you is if you want somebody to act, you want somebody to move forward in a deal, we have to find or create the gap. The way we do that is by asking the right questions at the right time that work with human behavior. So I've done a lot of training with mental health groups, with psychologists, with therapists. And then some of you might be aware that they use something called motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing, I'm not going to ask you to answer this, but if you've ever sat on a counselor or a therapist's couch, you lay there, they ask you like 2 or 3 questions, and before you know it, you're crying your eyes out, telling them about when you sat under a table with your shoes off when you were 5 years old. And you don't know how you got there. Because what they do is ask questions in a certain order which activate different pain points in your head. And I hate this part about sales. But unfortunately, we are 90% more driven to move away from current pain than we are towards potential future pleasure. So we need to get our questions in the right order to at least give ourselves a chance should there be a sale to be made. And the order, I'm going to keep this really high level, guys. The order is really simple. So I'm not going to tell you what questions to ask. I just want you to self-audit after this call and ask yourself, are the questions I'm asking in the right sequence? So there's 5 stages. Stage 1, let's call it past. So questions about something that was previous. So guys, can I ask you, have you done much sales training, professional sales training before? That's in the past. Who's heard of me before? Has anybody been following Swish for a few years or just heard of us recently? They're past questions. Then we go present. So what are you doing now specifically to help you with XYZ, whatever you're offering? So what have you got in place currently to help you with XYZ? You probably know where the next one's going. Future. Ideally, if everything fell into place, what would be the perfect outcome for you from this particular campaign? Like if you could create it, I'm not saying we can, but if you could. What we've now done is take them from where they've been, what they've tried, to where they want to go. Now, we call that the gap. At that stage, we will have identified either a current problem or a previous problem. Either way, there's a problem there, which is really important. Now, when you ask somebody to describe future state, if I say, guys, let's write some goals. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? You're not going to tell me something detrimental. You're going to describe a happy future state. Most people would. You're not going to go, oh, I want to be living in a worse house. I want to be earning less money. I want to be driving a worse car. You're going to describe something happy. This is really important because stage 4 is what we call cost of inaction stage, where we ask questions about the ramifications of them doing nothing. The ramifications of them doing nothing. So Alison talks to me about my event. Right? And obviously, I don't know all you guys individually, so this might be an easier example. But Alison goes, so Ryan, tell me, like, what events have you done in the past? Well, normally we have about 200, 250 people. Okay, fantastic. And what's the most recent one that you've done, or what are you planning for right now? Okay, well, we've done, the most recent one was 250. Okay, and how did that play out? What worked well? What didn't work well? On a score out of 10, what would you score it? 7 out of 10. What would got it to a 10? Now we've gone into the future. I start giving her my motivational drive as well. If we had 1,000 people in the room, if people walked out and they were going, that was the best sales event we've ever been to, blah, blah, blah. So now she's taken me on a bit of a journey. And now she can say to me, Ryan, well, what if you don't get 1,000 people in the room? What if your delegates walked out and they didn't say it was the best event they've ever been to? I'm like, no, that's not an option. We have to get this right. Now I'm selling her, she's not selling me. She could say to me, well, Ryan, you've got to get this right. You want the delegates walking out saying this. You want them feeling this. That's just her telling me, which is very 80s. And dialogue is the highest form of persuasion. So a conversation between two parties. So when she's asking me better questions, she gets better responses. And it's this part here, this cost of inaction, that creates urgency. And then all she has to do is ask me what we call partner questions, which is, well, Ryan, if you were going to use an agency, if you were going to use billboards specifically, how are you choosing which company to use? Not how do you know Bishop's going to be right for us, but how are you choosing out of all the options you've got? Oh, well, I need to know they know the demographic of the area. I need to know they understand what we're trying to achieve from the conference. I need to know that they actually understand the values of our company and the message we want to put out there. I need to know they're going to be there on the back end to support us. So I just told you everything that I need because of your better question. And then all Alison has to do is go, well, that puts my mind at ease. Doesn't have to go, we do that. Well, that puts my mind at ease. And we've just taken them on a question sequence. Past, present, future, cost of inaction. How are you choosing the right partner? Does this make sense, guys? Yeah? Okay. So just self-audit after this. Go back, look at your questions and ask yourself, am I asking questions in the right order? Or am I just focusing on the future, which is product pushing? And your job is not to push products. Your job is to find problems that they didn't even know they had. And the final one, guys, before I go into pitch, is remember the 300% rule of value. Remember the 300% rule of value. And it is a really easy principle to understand, is that if you study any baseline human behavior and how people connect, we buy things in threes. We buy you, so myself, we buy the company, and we buy the product or service that you have to offer. The most important aspect of this is the order. You guys buy me long before you buy Swish, before you buy my training. So when I come on here this afternoon, whatever time it is, I don't even know. That first thing, I have to give you a bit of context about my background. I start with my elevator pitch. Guys, I get to do this every single day. For the last decade, I've been working with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals. Like, I have to give you a little bit of substance about me. Now, do you care? Be honest. Do you actually care? Especially Beck, being a high D personality type. She doesn't care. Like, be honest, she doesn't care. And this is what stops people selling themselves. People go, Ryan, I'm not going to sit there and tell everybody about how long I've been doing this for. Okay, well, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're right in the fact they don't care, but they need to hear it. I used to absolutely hate talking about myself. You won't find anything about me on socials until 2017, 3 years into business, until I started to understand the power of the human connection. And when you learn how to do that elegantly, we can build what we call value builders into conversation. And that's going to nicely lead me on to this pitch right now. So I'm going to give you a 5-stage process where you can build value in you, the company, and the product within 45 to 60 seconds. So whether you're at a networking event, whether you're at a luncheon, or whether you're just actually directly sitting with a client and you've got to pitch your offering, we've got a clear framework that we use. Before I go into it, I will say this. It is not designed to be delivered all in one go every single time. You can, but it doesn't have to be. Just so I know, guys, just with a quick yes or a no in the chat, do any of you get an opportunity to speak in front of large groups? Do you go to any like BNIs or Rotaries or networking events? Who's standing on stage? Yes or no? Just so I know how to position this. Craig does, Sally's no. Bex, yes. Sam is. Okay, cool. All right. And I'm not saying, guys, like I say, you've done a lot of training, no doubt, over the years. I'm not trying to preach to the choir here, but this is a framework that has really worked well for us. It's the exact framework that we used when we went into Shark Tank as well, just so you guys know. We now work with a lot of people that are looking to raise capital. We work with our portfolio companies, so with our investors, we train their portfolio. I actually train Steve Baxter, if you know Steve Baxter, directly. I won't tell you how much he's raising, but it starts with a B, through Gina Reinhardt over in WA right now. So I'm teaching him how to pitch Gina. Right, that Mrs. Reinhardt, actually, you got to call her that. Don't call her Gina. All right, so I'll write it on here, guys. Down the left-hand side of your page, can you just write down the acronym pitch? And we've got 10 minutes to go. Am I right for 10 minutes, Alison? Yeah, I'll finish bang on 1:45. Okay. So the acronym is pitch. It doesn't need to be delivered all in one go. And secondary to that, it also doesn't need to be delivered in this particular order. It's just 5 different bullet points that enabled me to create something quite succinct. And also it allowed me to create the acronym pitch. That's the only reason it's in this order. So it doesn't mean you need to do it like this. So the first one is very easy. And if you struggle with it, the rest of it's going to be really hard. It's promote clarity in your name, title, and company. And I'm going to give you my version at every stage, and then I'll pull it all together for you. Have we done this, Alison, at Bishop?
Multiple times.
We have, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, promote. And the reason I asked that, Alison, is it still evolving for you?
Yeah, I actually rewrite mine quite frequently now.
Okay, good.
If you want, I can demo mine. If you need an example at the end.
Going to throw you up. I'll throw you up at the end if I can.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You can grade me.
Don't let me down. So promote clarity in name, title, and company. So, and guys, the reason I wanted to just ask Alison that then is if you find this tough, if you've never done this before, it will be tough. It's like goal setting. If you've never been given a proper framework to write goals, it's actually quite challenging. So my name's Ryan Tuckwood. I'm the proud founder and CEO here at SWISH Sales Coaching. Right, that one should be quite easy for you. If you did struggle, buckle up. The second one, is identify whom, that's quite posh, isn't it? Whom you help. Who's your target market? Now, at this stage, guys, we maximize it at 3. So every single day, I get to do this. I'm fortunate I get to work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals. So I give a group of 3. We do know that humans consume in 3s. I gave you 3 principles a moment ago. I've got many more principles, but I gave you 3. Otherwise, we get paralysis via analysis. So every day I get to work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals. If you want, and you feel that it adds value, you can then add on the back of that, such as. I said Mercedes-Benz, Amex, Queensland Teachers. Did you hear me say that? I gave you a group of 3. I gave you, so we've coached 150 different industries across 32 countries. I've never sold what you guys sell. The same way I've never sold finance and we work with Amex. I've never sold cars. Like I gave you 3. So always have that ringing in your ears as well, because that's easy for us to consume. So I might say, look, I'm really fortunate. I get to work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals, all the way from owner operators, even sole traders, sales teams, all the way through to corporate and enterprise. And I give you a range, because what I don't want to do is alienate you too much. Right? I don't want to miss out. Imagine I met you at a networking event. If I get too niche with that, then I might actually miss you. And they go, oh yeah, you probably won't be able to help me, in their head. They might not even say that. So second one is identify your target market times 3. The T is to tell me the problem you solve. And if you don't do that, if you don't know that, please go and sit on that question for a little while. And again, tell me 3. So we got an event next week. There'll be 1,000 people in there. One of the first questions I'll ask is, guys, does anybody ever struggle with customers saying to you, let me think about it. I need to talk to my partner, or I can't afford it. Does anybody ever get that? 1,000 people, hands up in the room. I'm like, perfect. We help you with that. I'm not going to tell them how just yet, but I've got their attention. So like, what do you help me do? Get really specific and talk to the pain, not the solution. Because I don't know the solution's definitely going to help me right now, but I do know what pain I'm feeling. I know what I'm frustrated with. And if you ever, Ryan, do you ever find that maybe sometimes you've been marketing, you're trying to put your brand out there, but it doesn't quite hit the mark and you get the wrong customers in, they waste your time and it's just costing you money on the wrong clients? Yeah, 10 years worth. Okay, we help you with that. I'm like, cool. What's my next question? How? So now I've created permission-based selling as opposed to interruption-based selling. I'm trying to induce curiosity, and that's really what this is designed to do. This is not designed to sell. This is designed to induce curiosity. So identify 3 people that you help, tell them 3 problems that you solve, and clarify why you do it. This is the bit that never happens. And for those of you that are doing it by default, maybe you've just been in the game a long time and you understand humans, it will be your story, your narrative. So when I first came over here in 2010, I fell into sales. I certainly didn't want to be a salesperson. And what I realized very quickly was that people were still teaching sales like it's the 1980s, teaching people to lie, bully, and manipulate, and wanted to show people that it could be done a different way. We call it SWISH, selling with integrity and selling honestly. So for you, are you a business owner? Well, what was the moment where you said, I'm going to start my own business? If you joined an organization, what was the moment you said, you know what? I like these guys. They actually mirror my values. I'm going to join. I walked into this particular company, and I remember I had my interview. It was June 2017, and I sat down with Sam, and I'm like, Sam gets it, right? Doing this for the right reasons. I need to join this organization. I'm telling my customers that. If you come out on our sales floor, they're going to tell you about when I was sleeping on a bathroom floor with 31 cents to my name. My team are going to tell you my story and why they then attach to it. Does this make sense, guys? This is the emotion. This is where we connect to them as a human. And we'll see if Alison's got that in there. She's not looking nervous. She's looking really confident. And then the last one is hook. My English accent sounds a bit weird there, so I'll say that again. Hook. Hook them with the best bit. What is your unique selling point? What is your point of difference? So, and the best thing is, not only do we have live in-person events, but we also have on-demand 24/7, 365 training for those that prefer to train in the comfort of their own home, rewind videos, download documents, and so forth. What about you? And then I throw it back onto them with a final question. So what is your unique selling point? This is where we really get to subtly seed your difference, or maybe your product or service. And it could be, as I mentioned, and the best thing is, after 32 years in the industry, there's very, very few scenarios we haven't come across, which means that we can actually help you effectively and efficiently better than anybody else in the market, if that's true. And this really, guys, for me, this is telling your truth better. This is about understanding your story, understanding the journey and what really helps you stand out as a market leader, and then being able to articulate it and not doing it reactively, but doing it proactively. So I got 3 minutes to go, and Alison, strangely enough, wanted to volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 birds with 1 stone, I think.
Why not?
Are ready to go before everyone moves into a negative buying state? So I'm Alison Powell, head of the agency team at Bishop Outdoor. fortunate every day, especially today, to help upskill and support our agency partners, no matter if you're a coordinator, a digital planner, or an agency owner. I'm here to keep you informed about our regional airport programs across Australia and New Zealand and our extensive roadside billboard network, which paired together helps clients reach a valuable audience. We know our markets because we live in our markets. It's what makes Bishop unique. It's having the local insight into how each regional town and city operate so we can plan and build the best billboards for advertising on and in turn grow brands and business. We trade with transparency, and my personal commitment is to give our partners a great product and helpful team to work with on a day-to-day basis.
Amazing. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Everybody's clapping and cheering, going crazy behind the scenes right now, Alison. Okay, cool. I'm going to give you some feedback.
Sure. No, that's why we're here.
That's what we're here for. The only one thing I just pull out there, Alison, is that you said we keep them informed. What if they're not informed? What happens? What are the ramifications of not being informed?
We miss out. They're already.
Okay. Remember,
What are you writing? We're moving away from pain.
We are 90% more driven to move away from pain than we are towards future potential pleasure. So make sure you close that loop for me. So you go. So for the last how many years, Alison? You didn't tell me how many years, did you?
20 years.
Are you sure?
I know.
Bishop's 30 years, yeah?
Bishop have been in business 30 years. I've been working in media agency sales for 20 years.
For 20 years since you were 14. Wow. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
That's principle number 4. That's the secret one, guys. All right. So remember this. So don't ever miss an opportunity to drop a value builder in there. So as an organization for the last 3 decades, what we've recognized is that some people miss out on opportunities because they weren't aware of it. We live and breathe this. We're on the floor every single day. We're studying demographic changes. We're studying consumer behaviors. So what that means is we're there to keep you informed. So like close that loop for me. Does that make sense? So I need you to start with the pain. What we realized after 3 decades in the industry, and me personally, I've been doing it now for 2 decades, is that people would come up to us and go, hey, how come you didn't tell us about this? And we'd almost be doing you a bit of a disservice if we didn't let you know. And they were missing out on opportunities, which isn't right. So we have people local on the floor that understand specific areas, which means that we can keep you informed. Do you feel that would be beneficial? Right? It's just a conversation then. Is that helpful, Alison?
Just write it down.
You are a legend. Guys, I know that was really, really quick. What I would love, because I'm bang on 11:45, just in the chat for me, one quick takeaway. What stood out for you from there? Anything in particular? Went through 3 principles: speak their language, make sure your question sequencing is on point, remember the 300% rule of value, remember the overarching principle that all behaviors are state dependent, and then also make sure that we get our elevator pitch down pat. And guys, that is just their design to induce curiosity. Sam, lots of exclamation marks on there. I'll take that. Create human connection. Yes. Simple, positive. It was fast paced, Lisa. I apologize. Sorry. Hopefully it was absorbable. Question sequencing. Yes, yes, yes. Beck, pleasure. Cool. Guys, if you want to connect with me and you got any questions you didn't feel comfortable asking here, feel free to do so. And then I guess I'll hand back to Alison or Sam or somebody.
Oh, both of us, maybe. Thank you so much, Ryan. That was amazing. Super interesting. I've never seen Beck Coulson so engaged since the last Mamma Mia up front in my life. But thank you so much, Alison. Thank you so much for putting that on, and Bishop, and your ongoing support of the independent sector. Bloody amazing, and a really, really interesting and engaging session. So thank you so much for that. That wraps up everything today. Just a reminder that if you're at South by Southwest today, check out the panel at 3 o'clock. And if you've got the survey, please do it. It will save me harassing you over the next 5 days. It builds out our awards. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Ryan, thank you again. And Alison, thank you so much again. See you guys. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.